In this edition of Southern Newsweek, a product of Dunedin is about to be beamed into the homes of millions in China, thanks to a joint agreement. The bells ring out as the first Albatross returns to Taiko Head, signalling the end of winter. And the Dunedin-based Paralympians are in line for civic recognition, thanks to their Olympic efforts. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. Dunedin product is about to be streamed into the homes of 60 million Chinese thanks to a new agreement. It's just been signed by Enterprise Dunedin and Shanghai Media Group, but it's not the only one.
Signing off on stronger ties, Enterprise Dunedin's got a new memorandum of understanding with Shanghai Media Group. It'll make it easier for Chinese companies to film in Otago, showcasing the region to millions of potential tourists. And it'll mean local products can be marketed directly to a huge Chinese audience.
I think it's around 60 million people view their online website, which is a little bit like our Trade Me, I guess, if you want to compare it to that. So it allows from business to consumer transactions, which means households can buy product direct from the website.
He says the agreement's probably more of a coup for Dunedin than it is for Shanghai, but there's genuine interest on both sides.
It's a bit of a lopsided seesaw, to be honest. We get far more than we can give, but in saying that, we have a lot of product that the Chinese are wanting. We do have a destination that visitors want to visit and they want to know more about, and we're a great place for them to be able to come and do some destination filming.
Dunedin's also refreshed its 22-year sister city relationship with Shanghai. A sixth MOU was signed by local and visiting dignitaries, signifying more mutual benefits in the education, tourism and trade sectors, among others.
It started with small things, now it's just expanding into looking at environmental things, energy, sustainability, cultural exchanges. It's just getting bigger and bigger.
This delegation from China is the highest ranking to date. There are now 8 formal partnerships between Dunedin and Shanghai schools, as well as established links with Otago University and the Polytechnic.
We're getting huge benefits already educationally, either recruiting students to Dunedin or the university being able to develop collaborative relationships with Fudan, with Jiaotong.
A permanent exhibition of Chinese photographs has also been unveiled in the Shanghai room of the municipal chambers. Rosie Mannins, The South Today.
University of Otago researchers are uncovering the secrets of some remarkable isolated plants. They say megaherbs on remote subantarctic islands use heat to survive in the bleak conditions. And theirs is the first evidence of that happening outside the tropics.
Studying some most unusual flora, Dr. Janice Lord is the curator of the Otago Regional Herbarium and a senior botany lecturer at the University of Otago. Lately, she's been involved in a doctoral thesis about the colour of flowers on New Zealand subantarctic megaherbs.
We have this amazing flora of these big, brightly coloured, sort of monstrous plants, and it's a puzzle because they're unusual. There's nothing like that on the other subantarctic islands, and people have wondered for a long time why they're so brightly coloured.
She says subantarctic plants have been around for a long time and there's evidence they survived the Ice Age. The team of Otago researchers thermally imaged 6 species of Campbell Island megaherbs whose mainland relatives are small and pale flowered. They discovered the flowers and leaves of the remote variety heat up rapidly, making the most of rare moments of sunshine and calm weather.
The way the weather works down there, it's cloudy and it's wet and it's cold and it's windy. But every now and then there's a wee part in the clouds and the sun comes out, and as soon as the sun hits these dark coloured flowers, they can heat up to 15 degrees higher than the air temperature. And the insects come out and they flock to the flowers.
That's where pollination comes in.
It's the centre of the flowers that are often the hottest, and that's where the pollen is, and that's where the plant wants the insect to go. And also the leaves heat up, so you've got this mini greenhouse effect.
The plants aren't just unusually coloured, they're also big. Dr. Lord says their flowers are the size of cauliflowers and the herbs grow up to 1 metre high, with leaves like that on a rhubarb plant. This is the first time flowers outside the tropics have been found to heat up.
These plants are actually ancient relics of what was probably a much more widespread Antarctic flora. So they're pretty special. A lot of people don't even know that they're down there, but they're absolutely gorgeous and spectacular.
The Otago teams also found there's an array of strange nocturnal animals attracted to the plants at night, including wetters. They're pursuing that in the next part of the study, with their heating discovery now published in the Polar Research Journal. Rosie Mannins, The South Today.
The first royal albatross to return to Tairo Head for the spring breeding season has landed at the end of Otago Peninsula. Dunedin has a long tradition of church bells ringing to celebrate the return of the birds and herald the end of winter. And there are high hopes for the colony's future.
For him, the bells tolled. This year's return of the Albatross to Taiaroa Head has been led by 32-year-old Rob, all red, orange, blue. It's believed he might be looking for his fifth partner, as his first four mates have died. The bells of St Paul's Cathedral pealed across the Octagon at 1 p.m. this afternoon, as Otago Peninsula Trust Marketing Manager Sophie Barker watched on. She says it's wonderful to see how the city celebrates the return of the birds.
It's a beautiful tradition that's been in the city for many, many years, and I think because we are the world's only mainland Royal Albatross breeding colony, it's something that's really, really special to our city.
Dunedin campanologist Bruce Aitken really puts his back into ringing the cathedral's bells. Barker says the recent breeding season has been very successful. Not quite the best ever, but close.
We had our second equal most successful breeding season this year. We had 26 chicks. We've got 6 left to fledge. Our most successful ever breeding season has been 27 chicks, so we're hoping more eggs, more chicks this season.
She's hopeful that the colony of around 250 birds can double in size in the near future.
The colony's grown to about 250 albatross, so hopefully one day we'll get up to 500. And given that we've had so many successful chicks recently, it should grow exponentially soon.
A welcome back flag made by a friend of the Peninsula Trust is flying outside the Mayor's office. Many Albatross fans also set bell chimes on their mobile phones to ring at 1 p.m. Statistics show the Royal Albatross colony at Taiaroa Head attracts around 100,000 visitors to Dunedin and Otago every year. Rob is one of the seasoned rock stars of the colony and is expected to turn 33 in January. Staff are hoping he'll celebrate his birthday with a new partner and maybe the pitter-patter of not so tiny feet. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Competitors taking part in this year's Cadrona Games have been treated to some superb end-of-season conditions. Elite local and international skiers and snowboarders were dominating the slopestyle events near Wanaka, but it was an 18-year-old who stood out above all others.
Mother Nature turned on perfect conditions for the slopestyle and half-pipe competition at Cadrona Alpine Resort recently. It was a truly international affair. Athletes from all over the world were taking part, but it was a young Wanaka lad who blew everyone away.
Yeah, big news was local boy Wacko Wells landed the first quad cork, a switch quad 1620, the morning of one of the days of the game, so he wasn't waiting for the comp to go large.
The event is sanctioned by worldwide organisations, with athletes building up their points. And with the spring conditions being so good, organisers were pleased with the results.
Yeah, it just didn't disappoint this year. The standard was crazy. We had some superstars on the snowboard side as well. Sebastian Toutant from Canada took out the men's slopestyle, and he is a massive name.
McIver says having the international sportsmen and women in the region is a real boost.
They stay in Wanaka. They eat where everyone else eats, and they come up here and train. So it's awesome to see. It's pretty unique.
Locals are always rated highly in these competitions, with many up-and-comers getting the chance to show off their skills on home turf. But it was the efforts of Jackson Wells and his quadruple jump that stood out the most. Dee Karen, The South Today.
This year, the New Zealand Paralympian team won the most medals in the world on a per capita basis. The 6 Dunedin-based athletes arrived home to a warm community welcome, and now they're receiving civic recognition.
It's official. Gold medals are heavier than silver or bronze, according to gold medalist Anna Grimaldi. She was one of the 6 Dunedin-based Paralympians officially honoured by Mayor Dave Cull in a civic celebration. He told them the city is proud of their achievements.
It was such a shock, still is. I mean, having it around my neck right now is, looking at it, it doesn't even really seem like it should be mine. I mean, it was never in the plan, we never ever talked about it, it was only ever joked about, and so to actually have a real gold medal around my neck is just crazy.
At today's reception, Coach Raylene Bates took the opportunity to thank the Mayor for the Council's help with preparing sports grounds, especially for para-athletes to train on. She says it's contributed to the team's success in Rio, including Anna Grimaldi's winning jump.
But the nice thing was I was actually sitting in the middle of the Brazilian public because the coaches' seats weren't very good. They were away from the board. So there was no Brazilian in the last 3 rounds. So they actually adopted Anna and they were yelling and everything as well. So yeah, they were probably as ecstatic as what I was. So.
Rio was the first Paralympics for Grimaldi as well as Caitlin Dorr, who achieved 7th place in the javelin. That was despite receiving the call to go to Rio at the last minute.
I was one of the last calls up, so it was pretty exciting to get that call, and just to be over there was just an amazing opportunity.
Silver medalist Holly Robinson was chosen to be the flag bearer for the opening ceremony, which she says was one of her highlights.
Flag bearing was probably one of the most amazing things I've ever done. You know, one thing that you only probably get to do once. It was an amazing feeling.
New Zealand athletes won more medals on a per head of population basis than any other country at this year's Rio Paralympics, bringing in 21 medals, 9 gold, 5 silver and 7 bronze. Raylene Bates says many of the athletes have already begun training for the World Champs next year. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Coming up on Southern Newsweek, we pop into the gaming lounge that's taking visitors on a 30-year journey. And University of Otago research reveals interesting facts about pigeons and their ability to understand us. Welcome back. A throwback to New Zealand of the 70s, 80s and 90s is operating in Dunedin's George Street. The retro gaming lounge is allowing the public to enjoy a nostalgic step back in time. And it's also serving as a prequel to a major festival.
An old school playground for a modern audience. Back before Pokemon was a glint in a programmer's eye, and years before everyone played on mobile devices, coin-operated games were choice, and many people had home consoles. Now a Dunedin man who wasn't alive when arcade games were first around is proudly introducing them to his peers and reminding older folk of years gone by.
These games are chosen to cover all the genres and also all the eras. So we've got 70s, 80s, 90s, so we want to represent all of them, but then we need fighting games, racing games, adventure games, so a bit of everything really is what we're looking for.
The Retro Gaming Lounge is open until Sunday, but Bollinger Smith says it will return as part of the 4-day Powerhouse Festival in October. The pop-up is partially funded through the Urban Brokerage Scheme, and director Tamsin Cooper believes it fits perfectly.
Because it's so interesting, we thought that it would have an appeal to a wide range of people and be really accessible to a kind of cross-generational audience, and it proves that it has been. I mean, I think they've had around 2,000 people through in like 6 days, which is absolutely unprecedented. So to be able to bring a project like this into the city for people to have a new experience of the city is fantastic.
This event simply wouldn't have happened if not for collector Clinton Rowe, who has literally hundreds of computers and games.
Everything I own from the childhood, I've been sort of collecting back and collecting even wider than that. So 600 of these computers and video game consoles, all from the late 70s through the 80s, early 90s, and it just sort of captures all the different generations of video games and hardware for them, the video game consoles and computers.
These days, young programmers with an entrepreneurial streak create and sell games as apps for handheld devices. But Dunedin game creator Harvey Kong Tin has made a free one using old technology.
Atari Blast, from the very start, was conceived as just being a free game that anyone can download and run. It will run on emulator, so it will run on any laptop PC. Just download Altera, which is the emulator, And you can go to the Atari Age website and download Atari Blast from there.
The Retro Gaming Lounge opened on September the 14th, attracting an estimated 2,000 plus people thus far. Those who can't make it in before Sunday can check out the fun at the Southern Heritage Trust's festival next month. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
Pigeons can learn to distinguish real words from non-words by visually Pigeons can learn to distinguish real words from non-words by visually processing their letter combinations. That's the surprising new research from the University of Otago in collaboration with a German institution. The study, which is published in a prestigious international journal, is the first to identify a non-primate species as having orthographic abilities.
A bird in the hand is all well and good, but what if it can read? University of Otago psychology researchers have been testing pigeons to see if they can distinguish between words and non-words. The local academics were working with a team from the Ruhr University in Germany.
And we did that by presenting them with four-letter words on a touchscreen, and they basically had to pick the word if it was a word or another symbol if it was not a word. And we basically taught them between 30 and 60 words, and then we transferred them to words they'd never seen before to see whether they could also classify them correctly.
Scarf was one of the key researchers on the project and says the reason behind wanting to see if pigeons can read is relative to human nature.
If we find an ability in an animal that we also have, that we can kind of infer that maybe the last ancestor we shared with the animal also had that ability.
Construction of a new animal testing facility on the university's Dunedin campus is contentious, with opponents fearing more animals will be experimented on. Scarf says these birds were not harmed during this study's experiments.
So this is a purely behavioural study. So almost all of my work is behavioural, where we're basically just looking at the pigeon's performance on touchscreen tasks. So we give them a number of different tasks over the past probably 10 years.
He believes the expression bird-brained should now be let fly from our vocabulary. It's a thought, given the proof that these avian acrobats can tell a real word from a fake. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, conservationists try to find out what's eating the eggs and chicks of one of our native species, and why members of a Chinese community have been singled out for recognition. Welcome back. Female kea on Mount Aspiring are going to be closely monitored by conservationists this summer. About 5 nesting sites in the east and west Matukituki valleys will be captured on camera in January. The Kea Conservation Trust is aiming to find out what's eating kea eggs and chicks. The native mountain parrots are vulnerable to predators. Trust members are planning to catch female kea and attach transmitters to them in order to locate their nests. Then cameras will be placed in and out of nests to capture breeding progress and predator activity. The $20,000 project is being funded by Auckland Zoo and a private local donor. Dunedin's Japanese-inspired drum team, Taiko, has been celebrating spring through public music and performance. Members of the group were showcasing their rhythmic talents to an appreciative crowd recently, and it was also a chance to debut some original music.
A world premiere of an original song written and arranged by Taiko members was one of 5 showcased at the group's spring celebration. The group was formed in 2010 and is the most southern Taiko group in the southern hemisphere.
It's amazing. I mean, we're so privileged to be able to first play on these drums, but also to learn the culture and the performance aspect of it.
Taiko's performances blend elements of rhythm and action with their mix of traditional and new drum pieces.
So most of our songs are, you hear a theme throughout it, or you'll see a theme with the choreography and movement as well.
Special guests, the Otago Koto Ensemble gave a performance on their Japanese string instruments. But it's the main drumming group that's found themselves in great demand.
We've had up to like 50 in a year, which range from really big performances to small, intimate ones. We perform a lot around the university.
The group has 20 members at the moment and is supported by the University of Otago's music department. Go says there are no special skills needed to play the traditional Japanese drums.
You just come, and as long as you have passion and enthusiasm to learn with us, we're just happy to have you, and we're a fun group.
Celebrating the end of winter with songs and rhythms from Japan, North America, Australia and New Zealand was a great way to welcome spring. Dee Karen, The South Today.
A Gore Art Gallery has recently been ranked by Lonely Planet as one of the best places to visit in the South Island. The Eastern Southland Gallery houses an eclectic, far-ranging collection of both New Zealand and international work, and its curator is pleased to see hard work paying off.
Eastern Southland Gallery has received recognition in a world-renowned travel guide. On the Lonely Planet list of the 20 best free things to do in the South Island, a visit to the Gore Gallery took out the second spot. Curator Jim Geddes says he is pleased with the recognition, but he hasn't had time for it to sink in.
We have appeared in the Lonely Planet before from time to time, and it's always been well received, but I think a lot depends on the show that you've got on at the time, a lot depends on the reviewer, a lot depends on the day, and we obviously struck it lucky this year.
The gallery has 2 permanent exhibitions, one of which is devoted to the work of New Zealand artist Ralph Hotary. The other space houses a far-ranging collection including both traditional and modern pieces from Africa, America and Australia. Geddes says it might be this international flavour that puts the rural-based gallery on the map.
I think it's probably the eclectic nature of the collections. I think people coming to a small town like Gore don't necessarily expect to see what we have. I think the multinational scope of the holdings is something that surprises a lot of people.
Geddes says the gallery receives crucial support from inside and outside the region, and they've established strong relationships with many local artists. The team is made of Geddes and one other, and they spend most of their waking hours organising exhibitions and maintaining the gallery. He says while the job is time-consuming, he enjoys every day.
Because we're a really small team, we tend to get an awful lot done, and we seem to sing from the same hymn sheet, and we get very excited about the programs that are coming in. And it's not really work, it's actually every day you just can't wait to get to work. It's wonderful.
Alongside the 2 permanent exhibitions are spaces which are changed out regularly through the year. And with an exhibition schedule booked up to the end of 2018, the work won't be letting up anytime soon. Jack Conroy, The South Today.
The contributions of senior members of Dunedin's Chinese community are being recognised. A special lunch has been held for the volunteers at the Dunedin Chinese Garden, where many have been involved in events and ceremonies. It was an opportunity to give back to those who share their culture so freely.
A special lunch at the Dunedin Chinese Garden has been taking place to thank these seniors for the tremendous job they do for the facility throughout the year. They share their culture in a variety of ways. It can be anything from making dumplings to demonstrating calligraphy.
They help out with all the different aspects of the festivals that we do, and they do it with such good grace, and they do such beautiful performances. People really appreciate it.
Part of the authenticity the group brings to the garden is the family element.
What we've done now is we actually incorporate their family festival into what we do, so we give them a room and space to do the family festival, and then they come and join us and do the public festival. So we're trying to combine what they need with what we need, and it works out really well.
The group showcases the best of Chinese culture, revealing how they'd celebrate back at home. Evan says there's a real feeling of what it will be like in China. Some of the seniors were born there and have very little English.
They've integrated into Dunedin culture, but they still retain that great love and feel for their Chinese culture, which they're very happy to share with us.
The sharing of food was a gesture to show how much the work of the seniors group is appreciated by the city. Dee Karen, The South Today.
And that's all for this edition of Southern News Week. You can see more of Southern News by following us on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, or via our website channel39.co.nz. I'm Holly Buchanan. Thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.